And my focus today is to listen, to learn, and to add value by helping people expand the power of their heart so they can heal their minds.
Word. Thank
Thank you for
you.
having me.
Yes,
Morning.
definitely. All right, last but not least, B girl Candy. You got to unmute, love.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
My name is B Girl Candy. I am from New York City originally, and I am the vice president of the Mighty Zulu Queens and Mighty Zulu Kings crew. Um, I'm also part of Heartbreakers crew, and most importantly, I'm a mommy, and that's my number one job right now.
Mm.
I am here to support, to listen, and to fight alongside all you warriors that are really like standing for this movement that is really close to my heart. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And I'm Lady Crow. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri. I reside in Atlanta. I've been dancing since I was a kid and took up dancing, dancing seriously like in middle school and high school, just brief. But I wanted to focus on this today because it's very important with so many instances that's been happening within the past, well, within this year and apparently last year, and then beyonds, you know, because now things are coming up, the veil is uplifting, and things are just coming out from under the rug right now. So people are tired. I'm tired, definitely. And I wanted to bring all movements together, no matter what styles you do, because clearly it's an issue within every dance community, whether you crump, whether you pop, strut, break, doesn't matter, because I'm seeing it in all different movements. So I had the idea to want to bring you all together as representatives that's very much active in these movements to speak on these issues. So that's why we are here today. And I am grateful and I thank you all for being here. Um, so I appreciate it. So no other ado, let's get started with these questions. So, first question for Quick, Bruiser, Soul, Crucial, and Candy. What is the protocol when a woman in your crew or a close friend in the scene, if there are any, is being or has went through a form of sexual violence? Let's start with Quick.
Okay. All right. So here we go. This is a good question and it's a heavy question. And we've spoke on this question before. So with our crew, we're a grassroots hip hop crew. We're not a grassroots organization. So not being a legal organization, we don't use words like protocol because protocol is something that has the ability to have actions taken, such as lawsuits and things like that, and get subpoenaed and all of this, that, and the third. So it's a nice word, but it's a serious word in business, and so we don't use words like protocol. What we can do is we can, as an international community, is we can advocate, listen, maybe provide information or resources more so like a family would versus an organization of a LLC that has insurance, that has legal protection, that has this, that, and the third. We're still a crew, even though we big. So we don't have a protocol directly that works for things like this, because then we would have to have a protocol for gang violence. Then we would have to have a protocol for drug trafficking, human trafficking, and everything else that is an issue in the world that members in our crew in different countries go through. So we don't have a direct protocol for that. But and it's also hard too when you have so many people around the world that are dealing with different types of traumas and have dealt with different types of traumas, both in the scene and outside of the scene, for people to be empathetic or know how to listen to something that is so foreign to them. So it's a very challenging situation. And we've had situations where both men and women who have been violated sexually, you know, have talked about things in the past or in the future, and it's been heartbreaking to hear some of the conversations. And we have people in our crew that are preachers, pastors, educators, and social workers, but it doesn't always fall under the words protocol. It's more so like a family. And so we handle it like a family. And sometimes it's not to the best of our ability. Sometimes it's like the drama that you would see in a family. And sometimes it's beautiful to see what a family can produce because you don't know the resources that your family may have. But the main thing is, we have a code of conduct that we stand by. And then as an individual, speaking for myself, the main focus would be to be empathetic and to listen to one's issues at hand. You know what I mean?
Okay. That's
Yeah.
real. That is definitely real. I understand. Thank you, Quick.
You're welcome.
All right, Bruiser, what are your thoughts in regarding to the question?
To follow along with Quick was saying, is being open and empathetic. I think oftentimes, especially as males who are very sensitive to the topic concerning females, when females are abused and have gone through or are going through, abuse, we often think alpha, and we want to approach said individual who may have inflicted or caused the abuse based off of natural anger or outbursts due to the sensitivity of the topic or the relationship to the individual, whether crewmate or whether you're just triggered by it being a woman in general. I think talking to the individual first and foremost, are they okay with the said approach, and also how are we approaching the situation? Are we approaching it level headed? Because 9 times out of 10, we're probably not. We're probably online posting about it and messaging people and spreading it out instead of dealing with the problem in house and in home, making sure that individual is first and foremost okay. Um, Giving them the help that they need, whether it be medical attention or whether it may be from a psychological standpoint, some kind of therapy. Um, Yes, I think that's pretty much my take on it. I've never personally dealt with a crew member or knowing someone specifically by me having to deal with the issue at hand. I've always come across it, with individuals who've dealt with it already, but it's still, it still weighs down on them pretty heavy, and they seek the attention from therapists, and that has gotten them through, so to speak. And there's you can never really ease it over, smooth it over. You can never smooth nothing like that over, but they've taken the necessary steps to go forward and come out of their shell about it. So yeah, I think that's my take on it, pretty much from that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Definitely real. Um, so
So it was good. Man, this is we going right for the jugular right out the gate. All right, I had to write down the notes so that way I wouldn't lose track. Um, so as far as the protocol goes, one, I'm a part of a page organization, whatever you want to call it, called the Dance Safe on IG, primarily ran by women, powerful women. So I'm more of like a backseat type of person that just tries to help if I can. But for the most part, I haven't experienced anything because I only have one woman in my previous crew. I haven't heard anything about that or anything, which I understand is very hard for women to come out about it as well. But as far as being inside the dance safe, there's just been so many cases that has already come to light about people that I already know. A lot of people I'm not surprised about, and some I kind of am. But at the end of the day, one of the things that I will personally share that we can at least do, because I also agree with Quick about the protocol part, that that is a very serious word, and a lot of legal actions really represent that particular thing. So for me personally, of what I can personally do as a man, if that is brought to my attention, is one, to ask women how do they want to go about the situation, versus me trying to tell women what to do. because I understand everyone operates differently. A lot of people deal with trauma a lot differently. So for me, it's about asking them how they want to go about it first. Second is checking my ego from centering myself. I understand also a lot of men, we get hot and then we're like, all right, where is he? Where's he at? The first thing we want to do is beat their ass, right? But it's like, why don't we ask them first how they want to go about the situation so we can decenter ourselves, we check our ego. Third thing is remove biasness. I think that is probably the main thing with men is removing the biasness that we have about other men, where they're either our friends or people that we look to as leaders in the community. And a lot of times we're just like, oh no, this person would never do that. You tripping, right? And then we're just re-traumatizing this particular thing that we don't have to face necessarily. So we're therefore making it a lot harder for women to express to us if they feel safe around us in the first place. The fourth thing is find people who are professionals. If we don't personally know what to do, let's find professionals who can actually offer up a great space to them, whether that's legally, emotionally, spiritually, you name it. And then 5, just offer up a safe space. So for me, that's how I can go about doing particular things. And that's usually what I aim for inside of the Dance Safe, as well as all the other women who are involved in that particular page.
Definitely, definitely. Very important with the safe space. Um, Sorry. All right. Now, crucial.
Okay, so I think one of the major things for me that a lot of dancers they try to bring real life situations into the dance community as if it is a dance issue. Now, if somebody is or has been sexually assaulted or something has been done to them, my first thing would be like, file a lawsuit, call the police, go to the hospital, do the proper things before you try to blast that crumper or say this or say that. Because a lot of times people try to run to the dance community as if the dance community is going to give them justice.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't filed a police report, if you haven't done the actual proper protocol, real life things to make sure that you get your justice, then telling a dance or something, like everything is not a dance issue. If somebody touched somebody, getting off on that person is not going to do anything. So for me, I just think that there should be proper channels of communication first with the proper authorities that can handle those type of situations. And then if somebody is, feeling that it should be taken a step further, then maybe say, go about it in a different way. But I see a lot of people, not a lot of people, I just see certain situations where people try to make a real life issue a dance issue. It's not a dance issue. It's an issue that happened between people that dance. And if they are not taking the proper steps to go to court to see that this person goes to jail, then getting off on them or battling them will never equate to justice. You know what I mean? So also, I just think that a lot of times uh, there's not a safe space within um, our realms of dance for women to be women. You know, a lot of our realms of dance are very masculine. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying like, oh, welcome to women, but I'm saying like, it's a certain type of authority that we have to have as women too, you know, and we don't ask for the things that are done to us, but at the same time, we have to be able to stand together and know that our male counterparts support us and stand with us too, you know. So it's not a matter of like one of the panelists said, it's not about like, oh yeah, let's get off on them. No, check and see if they took the proper steps outside of this dance world before you go battle somebody. Did they file that lawsuit? Did they go to the hospital? Are they okay mentally? You know what I mean? And then you know, make it apparent and make it known that this is what it is, instead of it just being allegations. And just a lot of people take stuff and just run with it, and then you don't know the truth. But because they didn't settle it outside of dance first, and then they brought it to dance, now it's an issue. So that's what I think. I think the proper steps should be put in place first. And then if it goes to the dance world or dance realm, that's what happens. But make sure that you know you call the police, you go to the hospital, you keep your receipts, like all these things, because getting off on somebody and battling somebody will not heal you. You know what I mean? Like it won't be, it's not justice.
Word, I can definitely agree. Definitely keeping the receipts. I know I keep mine. Um, Whenever I get in contact with random people or men per se, more so, that will send some things. So yeah. And last but not least, Candy.
Sorry, I have to unmute. Um, I agree so much with what Lady Crucial just said. I do think that a big thing that happens, especially now because of cancel culture, is that people kind of come out and say things and want kind of like this vengeful situation where a person gets canceled in the scene. And I think for MZK personally, like, and like Quick said, we don't use the word protocol. It's more so like we're trying to figure things out. Sorry, I have a little boy, so sometimes I have to check on him to make sure he's all right. But I think what we try to do is have a space within the crew where people feel comfortable enough to even speak up. And the thing is that as much as we'd like for someone who's been in a situation to go to the police, it's really not that easy. It's easier said than done. It's hard to even tell someone when it's happened to you. So I feel like that's what we try to create, is a space where it's like we have women in the crew that you can go to speak to about this. Asia One personally she's the pres of the Mighty Zulu Queens, and she's someone that I go to for mentorship, and I feel like she's very diplomatic. She's very much a person that is there to listen to you. And so we've had things where B girls have approached maybe one of the male members and said like, well, I feel this way, someone said this to me, and they've been like, you know what, like that's very valid, but as a man, maybe I'm not the best person to advise you on that. Here's Asia's number, here's Candy's number, like give them a call. I feel like you feel more comfortable with that, because one thing that we as a crew are coming to terms with is that a lot of us aren't in the position to advise people that have gone through this. We're not afraid to say we don't know how to deal with this, because it's traumatic and it's hard, and it's not something that you can just be like, what, he did that, yo, let's go battle him, or let's put it on Instagram and basically shout this person out. Because at the end of the day, what if that victim does turn around and say, you know what, I feel comfortable enough now to go to the police? Then they go to the police, and the police is like, well, you just aired it all on Instagram, you didn't give that person due process, now we can't do our job. So it's a really like tightrope to walk on. So as a crew, we want to be more careful, and to I'll be honest with you, for me that was hard to understand in the beginning, because I did want like swift justice, like just cancel this person or ban them from events, or this person shouldn't be working in the scene anymore. And I feel like for some it's so blatant that yeah, you can do that, but it's not always black and white how you can go about it. And I think the biggest thing is to be a safe space as a crew for people to approach and be able to say like, guys, this has happened. Even if it is one of our members that does it, like we want to know. We want to be able to deal with it in-house, be able to say like, hey, we have a mission statement, and you're not following that mission statement, this is how we want to lead. Like, we're not the same crew we were 10 years ago. You know, when we started, our mission was just to battle everyone, and that was like the focus. And now we've grown into community leaders. You know, there's people in law, there's people that are into, that do trauma counseling and things like that. So a lot of people have different people that they can approach. And I think, yeah, that's, it's not protocol, but it's how we try to approach it from a humble mentality and a supportive mentality.
Word. Yeah, it's definitely very important. Um, yes, I agree. Sorry, guys. Um, Sorry, guys. It's a lot going on, so I'm trying to like pay attention to what you're saying, and then it's just yeah. So bear with me. All right. So now we're gonna move on to the second question. How do we recognize a predator and a target? And starting with the ladies, we're gonna start with Lady Beast for that question. Um,
All right. So I was writing notes down as well while everybody was talking and reading the second question, just writing more notes. I think when it comes to recognizing someone who's acting like that, um, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I've been watching a lot of SVU, Law and Order, and you can learn a lot from that show. Seriously, because a lot of their stories are like they're ripped from the headlines, so they're based on true stories with like a little twist and stuff. So one of the things that I learned on there is that there's nuances nowadays. Even the word nuance is a nuance type of word. So I feel like it's not always recognizable. It's not always in your face. Like we would hear like when we were kids, like, oh, stranger danger type stuff, like someone's being creepy. Nowadays, it's like it comes in the form of grooming. So when it's like that, I feel like it could be a mentor, it could be a friend, it could be whoever. And when it comes in the form of grooming, it's like it's even more scarier because you would never expect it to be someone that you know. So I had to write that down, and I think grooming, it can also be, it comes in a disguise as grooming. But if it is something that is recognizable, I would say, like, sometimes there's an eagerness in it. There's this type of like discomfort that they, whether it's a man or a woman, there's a discomfort that comes with like their whole energy. Like I said, you can't really pinpoint it, especially if it's something that's never happened to you before. It's going to be hard to be like, hey, that person is a predator or whatever. Um, and lastly, I would say, like, not for nothing, like your instincts, man. Like, when something is not right. You feel it. Like, and I'm not saying like you have to always, I mean, rely on your instincts, but at the same time, like, even when you don't know that your instinct is coming in, just recognize the fact, like, yo, something ain't right with that person. Right? And usually it follows with their behaviors. And especially if you've never been in that position before, there's grooming that's behind it. And sometimes I feel like they're pretty comfortable with being um, disrespectful or uncomfortable, or just being like they're very comfortable in the skin that they're in, as far as like they just can't help but be that person. You know what I mean? It's like if you're the type of person to act that way, it lives in you. It's like you just can't help but present yourself as that type of predator. You know what I mean? So I hope that makes sense. But I wanted to point out, like, because nuance is like a nuanced word nowadays, there's words like due process, there's like creating a safe space, triggers, um, all of those things are new things to us. So as far as putting those two together, it's not as easy to pinpoint a predator, but it's just, you know, all in all, I would say, like, follow your instincts and just make sure, like, you try to point out that type of person. So hopefully that made sense.
It did make a lot of sense, and that also includes the intuition. Intuition is real, really. Like once that is heightened and the alarm bells is ringing and stuff like that, it's that definitely that's real, definitely. Um, Mona Lisa.
What's up, everyone? Yeah, I was thinking about this question, and I feel like that there's like different levels. Whether you're new to the scene or whether you're kind of like near the end of, like, you've been doing it a long time and people see you in a certain light. I feel like, if you go with like the B-girls that are new to the scene, to me, what I see over the years is, they come in and it's kind of like new meat, and the guys, they circle her. I mean, I'm not like making this up. It's kind of like, oh shit, who's going to talk to her first? And it kind of becomes this like thing where B-girls are seen as objects and not equals. And so I feel like perpetuating that into like later in your career, once you're more established and once people know that you have skill and you're in it and you've been respected and stuff like that, I feel like going along with like what Lady B said, it's tends to be more like, oh, this person is someone that I've known a long time, but oh wait, this girl's single now, or maybe she's not single, and maybe they're just trying to move in because, oh, like they think it's my turn. I haven't gotten with this girl yet, and I don't know. It's something that I feel like because there's so few B-girls, or at least there was, when I was coming in, it's kind of like a prize for B-boys that get with a B-girl. At least that's how I saw it. And so I don't know necessarily how you recognize it, aside from like if you're at practice and you see the B-boys kind of like zoning in on the one female in the room. I think it needs to be a conversation with the B-boys bringing in the younger generation and saying like, look, this is how a session is run. Let the woman come up and ask you a question, maybe instead of you going over and being like, yo, what can I show you? Yeah, I guess that's what I have to say about it.
Thank you, love. Yeah, I definitely agree. And it also, from what I can remember, even when I was in school, like in grade school, like in middle school, when there's a new girl that enters into the school and the guy starts noticing her and be like, yo, I wonder if she'll go out with me and blah, 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 blah type thing. Like that's, I mean, I wonder if it even like that pattern, if it starts from there, like if it's consistency. I'm having a hard time explaining it, but anyways, yeah. So yeah, in middle school, I've experienced, but I've witnessed in listening to guys, speaking, in regarding to like new girls that'll enter into the schools and they try to get at her and stuff like that, and it's ridiculous sometimes. But I mean, if they like her, they like her. But you just gotta, they gotta be mindful at the same time because they don't know her and she don't know them. So the same thing applies to even now as us being adults, So let's go with crucial. Sorry, love.
All right. I think the thing is, sometimes we have this imagination that makes it to where dancers aren't human or they're not capable of doing this. What I've learned in my life is anybody is capable of anything, and they don't have to look a certain way. They don't have to act a certain way. They could You can be knowing somebody for 10 plus years, and then the next day something happened. Also, I think I'm big on energies too. So I like to read the room, you know. I go with my instinct, I go with my gut. Um, if my spirit is unsettled with somebody, I I don't go towards that, you know. Also, um, the predator in this discussion is not limited to men. There's a lot of young women that are predators too, you know. So at the same time, we're putting all this pressure on these men because we are in a male dominant dance, but there are a lot of female predators also, so I just still want to hold everybody accountable, to where there's sometimes men need to be asked if this is a safe space for them too, you know and we have to protect each other. you know if something isn't sitting right with me and my spirit, I have to feel comfortable enough to ask my sister or ask my brother, hey, do you think this is kind of weird? You know? So I think we have to actually create the space for healing. And even when you create those spaces, the thing is like some people know how to play that role really well, you know? Um, I just would say, you can't point out a target or you can't point out a predator. Like there's no if your spirit doesn't sit right with somebody's energy, I could only say that because, there's some people that I think are kind of crazy in our culture, but they might not be a predator. You know what I mean? I just keep my distance from those type of people because I just don't know what type of energy it is. So I just want to I don't know, you got to go with your gut and go with your spirit, like the other panelists said, because you can't really point out anybody because anybody is capable of anything, male or female.
Okay, and it looks like Quick, I think you have a question from the audience for Small Talk. Quick spoke about conduct. So it says, King Quick spoke about code of conduct, but when I asked myself when I was growing up, where did I and other hip hop heads get our values from? So many males get this idea that they should be players. How far is being a player from being a predator? Ooh.
Okay, check, check. You hear me, Mike? Check. I'm in. So, how far is being a predator from being a player? That's a fun, loaded question because everybody's description of those two things is based on their perception of what they feel is a predator. There's a lot of different types of predators out there. First off, crucial with spitting game. It could be a man, it could be a woman. There's also people out there that weren't victims of any type of thing, but they jump online to be included in what they feel is a movement. And so there's people even out there making stories, or that there's envy out there. There's women hating on women, or women hating on men, or men hating on each other, who are creating stories to put someone under fire, and that also is a form of being a predator. So there's a lot when it comes to these words. They're not just one hat fits the description and you're a predator, or one action fits the description and you're a player. So I don't like either one of those things. I'm not into the whole player. You going north, baby. Yeah, I'm not into the whole player thing. I'm not into the whole I'm very monogamous, you know what I mean? And I've never been into the whole player thing. It's not my style. Now, if you want to be a player, the, I guess the best thing you can do is be honest. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with your partners. Have communication. Um, the whole thing is being a player. You're playing games. Now if you want to have multiple partners, you're not being a player. You live in a different uh, what is it? Yeah, a different structure of your relationship. That's not being a player. That's being an adult and having great communication, having integrity, having a focus of what you want, Being a player is being sneaky, being conniving, playing games with people's emotions, playing games with people's hearts. So I don't suggest that you be a player or a predator. You know, I think both of them are whack, and neither one of them needs to be out there, but they both exist. So I feel like identifying the difference between one and saying, "Oh, was I caught up with the player, or was I caught up with the predator? Is he preying on women, or is he just going out and getting his fixes?" And that's a lot of that too. Whereas a lot of, let's say, for instance, a popular dancer, man or woman, is always being courted by people based on their fame, or always being courted by people based on their aesthetic. People are always coming after her because she's just stunning. People are always coming after him because he's just handsome, or they're just famous, and people are always coming after them, and they cash in on it. You know, I think there's a double standard in that in the hip hop community, in the hip hop world, both culture and industry. Where's a double standard where if a young lady cashes in on 2 or 3 people in 5 years, she's labeled as a hoe. Whereas if a young man cashes in on 10 in a week, he's celebrated. You know, and I feel like those double standards need to be voided, and we need to stop the judgment of how people live their lives. But that's the best way I can answer that right now, is that just the double standard needs to be addressed, and the judgment of what one does with their body, what one is consensual of, shouldn't be judged by anybody. And if you're judging, there's some insecurity in yourself that you have to deal with as well. And for the young ladies out there that feel judged because they have more than whatever amount of partners, don't worry about anybody else. Just live your life. You know what I mean? But be clear with your communication. Be clear with what you want out of your relationships and your interactions, because it's hard to find love out here, and a lot of people look for love and intimacy, and obviously there's a very thin line between sensuality and sexuality. And predators are not looking for sensuality.
Definitely right about that one. Thank you, Click.
You're welcome.
So reverting back to the second question, can we have Pun? You haven't spoken yet, love, so I'm giving you the shine right now.
All right. I'm really practical when it comes to a lot of things. So for me, the first thing is habits, and I wrote some down, habits and behavioral patterns. That tell everything when it comes to a person. Just the habit that they have, like if they need to keep company with, younger people or a certain group of people, whether it be females or vice versa if it's males. And also, I don't think people really realize when it comes to dancing, you can tell certain predators on like how they get fitted for a company event. They try their best to go preying on women. Like one day I had to, like, I'm a married man, and I had to really realize, I was like, why? I stopped and I was like, why am I trying to get so fitted for this crump event that I'm gonna go dance and express myself and sweat? And I was like, wait a minute, I'm not trying to impress any women, so let me just wear my clothes that I'm going to dance in and things like that. And I had to check myself, you know what I mean? And that's what a lot of, men and women don't really realize, like, or they do realize and they just do it anyway. Now, there's some people that are like in the fashion industry, like, Weeze and stuff like that. Like, he stays fitted all the time. That's just him. But there's certain people that they're purposely going to get certain things, short dresses, J's, whatever, just to go to a crump event, because that's their preying grounds. That's where they prey on people. When you really, to me, when you're at a crump event or you're at a dance event, you're there to express yourself or to be entertained or to do your art. You're not there trying to shop around for men or women or the opposite sex or the same sex. So I think that habits and behavioral patterns, it tells it all. Even with like my little homies that are kids, they spend a night over my house because I have kids. They wouldn't be spending the night over my house if I didn't have children. Because at the end of the day, what is a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old doing in my house at 4 o'clock in the morning? You know what I'm saying? That's out of order. You know what I mean? And that's going back to like what I say, I'm old school. At the end of the day, like if I want to continuously put myself around people who are younger people have lower standards, which means I can be manipulative and do more things to them and tell them anything. So you have to watch people's behavioral patterns. They always want to be around kids and people that they can push their ideals on. So another thing you have to look at is past history. What is this person's past history? Have they suffered with being prey or predator, or were their parents like that, stuff like that? Because some people in the dance movement have already came out and said they struggle with this, but like Crucial said, we kind of put it past them and we like, they're through with it, they're not struggling with it, but they might still be struggling with it. So, not that you're going to judge them every time they come around, but when you know somebody who's already been prey, if they're starting to hang around younger people, that's a sign like, hey, maybe we might want to watch that or whatever. Now, if he's mentoring them and showing them how not to be a prey or predator, that's cool. But a person that's already been preyed upon and struggled with that, hanging with, once again, a 14, 15-year-old at 4 o'clock in the morning, that just don't look right. You know what I'm saying? So we have to stay mindful of that. And then common sense goes along with caring as well. You have to care. I've seen a lot of people that just don't care. They'll see a young girl or they'll see a situation where a big homie is picking up a girl because of their looks. They have no intent on making them good, and they just don't care. You have to step in and you have to care. To me, love is correction. It's not allowance. That's a big thing that I've learned. Like, just to allow something, because I'm a nice person, but I also understand, like, if I allow certain things, that mean I don't really truly love that person, the person that's being done to, or the person that is doing it. So the last thing I'll speak on is also recognizing sexually active children who hang around adults. That's really, really big, because we have a lot of, kids that they already been preyed upon and they're starting to be sexually active, and then we don't watch how they hang around adults, and they, like, flip the script, like they go after adults. I've seen it with my own eyes, and sometimes we'll just brush it off, or we won't directly address it, but it has to be addressed, because everybody's not going to be a Lady Crow or Crucial or Bruiser. They're not going to say like, hey, whoa, what I mean, you're not supposed to do that, let me talk to your parents. They might actually involve themselves in it, or they might, it might become hush hush. So that's that's my thought process on it. It's just really, making practical steps on real life situations. First, checking yourself, checking your home, and then going out and just realizing, like, okay, what am I doing? Am I aware of my habits, my patterns? Am I using common sense? Am I aware of these, when people do these testimonies? Am I aware of, like, the past history? And also, am I recognizing, like, kids that are in, young people who go to events that are targeting, that are wearing short dresses, that are, always getting fitted, worried about numbers, treating the crump events and dance events like the club, coming late, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that.
Thank you, Pun. You went in on that one. Definitely very important, especially with the kids, because of course we've had situations involving when it comes to that. I've been hearing stories about the children, even teenagers, and it just grosses, it just sickens me whenever I see that. So thank you for that, Pun. Thank you so much. Bruiser, would you wrap it up answering this question, please?
Yeah, certainly. Touching on a lot of what I've heard, the both sides of the coin, from the male and female perspective, of course, individuals being too into everybody's personal space, at all times. You have people who are just very inviting. They just invite themselves into a lot of personal space, and I've seen that first and foremost as um, a sign for a situation to happen at that given moment, from somebody who's probably not even aware, um, down to, I've had friends of mine who've received many unwanted messages from women, as well as vice versa, from men to women, and recognizing that being the predator aspect. Big piggybacking off what Pun was saying about attire. If you're going to a dance event, why are we? I understand if you're okay, marketing aspect, you may want to look presentable, but the over the top esque attire is not necessary. Um, I definitely want to touch on the victim or the prey, so to speak. I really don't even like to call it the prey, because that's very degrading for me. But noticing that if individuals within a community, as a community as big as it is, but as small as it is, a lot of people share the same partners. So you've been in a relationship with somebody and you split up, and then they're in a relationship with somebody who, you know, y'all was just in pre-selection together, or y'all worked on the same set, whatever the case may be. It travels in a circle, or however you wanna call it. But I've come to see that what's said about this predator, it coincides with the stories, after it's been told, and I've heard it from two different individuals. With that sign right there, that's just a sign of predator, just right off the bat. As far as the abusiveness, as far as the down talking, and realizing the trauma behind that, I've been in a relationship where I myself was angry, not at the individual, but I was angry about something, and I did a certain movement, and that triggered them in a certain way that they jumped up and they tensed up and they were afraid. I'm just like, wait, what's going on? Are you okay? She was just like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were about to hit me. And I'm just like, why would you think that? And then I come to find out that she was abused prior to, our relationship. And that I've never experienced that ever in my life. That mind blew me. So that right there was just my prime example of someone who is prey, quote unquote, or victim. I just want to say victim, um, and who has not had the courage or bravery to come out and speak out about it. And that right there just let me know, like, okay, that's a clear sign. How can I, check myself in certain instances? Like if I'm frustrated about something, how can I check myself not to have that trigger that that individual within themselves? I think everything that has been talked about within this topic has been touched um, on a very good note. That's just my take on it as far as recognizing who's doing what and who's who at that point in time.
Thank you, Bruiser. Thank you so much. Definitely important. Um, so we're going to move on to the third question. Um, how does society portrays individuals, American society? Pepsi. I know there's other things that everybody has viewed on this sheet. So yeah, please, Shine is on you, love.
All right, so I just want to say that um, American society really does not count the individual unless there is power attached to them. So, for the most part, I feel like when we have certain conversations, we generalize a lot of things, which reduces a lot of the like the weight of what we're talking about. But as far as like how people are portrayed or viewed, because I think some people can portray themselves as a certain way and then be viewed another way, like a totally different way. So for people who want to go to events and prep and look how I mean, I don't see nothing wrong with it, but I think something in the conversation has to be talked about is consent, because I think that's the main thing. If someone wants to come and to an event and capture somebody's attention, and those are two consenting adults that decide to go further with whatever they're doing that day or that night, that's not an issue there. You know what I'm saying? But someone comes to an event looking a certain way because that's how they decide to dress, and they get taken advantage of because they are objectified and they aren't seen as a person, and someone won't communicate with them because they don't feel like their position, feelings, or what they have to say is valid, then that's a totally different issue. You know what I'm saying? So I think we have to be careful with making things so simple as far as, oh, it was the clothes that I was wearing or she was wearing or he was wearing that made me feel like this or that. So I had to act on it. I ain't had no choice. I'm a, think of someone as animalistic to where they can't control themselves or control themselves. And when you do that, you don't hold people accountable or hold yourself accountable. And I think we got to be careful with that. And I also think that, like, with the relationship between men and women and the double standards and hurts how that hurts people, because when guys are celebrated for being sexually active and they use their sexuality to affirm their masculinity and to affirm their power in their masculinity, then it becomes violence against women, and then they start to use our women's bodies as a tool against themselves, against women. So like sexual violence is the only violence where literally the person's body is used as a tool against themselves, as a weapon against themselves. And that, I feel like it gives people, a lot of weird things to deal with, because it's not this external thing that happened, like, oh, somebody attacked me or punched me or something. It's a lot deeper, like a lot more psychological trauma. And so not only is that, like, we have to think about how we're addressing the situation with sexual violence in the community, not just physically but also verbally, how we're going to approach it with actual protocols, but how are we having conversations within our community? I know for my crew, I open my mouth and I speak a lot about things that are happening around me, not just that are happening to me, so that when things come up, what I'm saying, as far as how my crewmates are viewing things, and it's scary sometimes to speak up because I'm the only woman in my crew. So it's scary sometimes to have those conversations with a lot of guys, but I have to have them because let something happen to me. And because I'm their sister, what I'm saying? They, like we said, they up in arms, they ready. But the randoms, the people that they don't know, they are a reflection of me. That's somebody's sister, that's somebody's brother. And like with the children and the women who can't necessarily feel like they have to defend themselves, somebody has to step in and be in defense for them. You know what I'm saying? We have to be able to stand together and defend each other and speak up about these things, because like I said, the way that one person might try to portray themselves is not always how they're perceived.
Thank you, Pepsi. Thank you. I appreciate it, love. So due to looking at the time, I'm going to, those of you who spoke the most and like recently that are on some of the other questions, I may call on some of you, but some of the ones who haven't had a chance to speak, I'm going to just point out to those people that are on the other questions, because I'm looking at time. So if I cut you, don't feel some type of way. I'm sorry. And so that way we can try to get down the line, because it's 1:15 p.m. here Eastern time. So that's cool with everyone. All right, cool. So with that said, we'll do Bigo Rock for question number 3.
This is the one about society, right? How does society view us? That's the one?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, when I think of society, just the word, I usually think the ruling class, right? Like they're the ones setting up our rules, right? And so how did they become the ruling class, right? Usually by force. And by force, I mean like war, right? And so for a person of color, that means we got robbed, right? There was murder, all this stuff, right? Just so they could be, in charge of us. And so when I think of how society views us or views, the people that they're controlling, it's usually very skewed, right? They're superior, we're inferior, right? So for me, women in that type of a global, right, setup, women are disposable, we're a burden, collateral damage in wars, right? They usually rape or kill women. So like the women don't have more kids from that ethnicity, and men are kind of viewed, like a competition, right? It's war. And so somebody, who's coming into hip hop feels like, oh, this is counterculture, which it really was. In the 70s, it was counterculture. It was like, I'm not gonna dance like you, I'm gonna dance like me. I'm not gonna face a mirror. We're gonna do it on the floor, right? This is our artwork because anyway, y'all cut off all the art programs. So this is how we gonna paint. This is how we gonna dance. This is how we gonna rap. This is how we gonna do music. No bands, right? So hip hop was always like on some defiant type, check us out. And if you don't want to check us out, it's okay. We're still gonna get down over here. But they came. They came with the cameras, they came with the checkbooks and record label executives, right? And so how is it that ruling class now, right, tells us how we should categorize ourselves, right? And so even like terminology, pimps, players, hoes, groupies, right? What is that a product of? It's a product of like the destruction of a culture, right? And that predates hip hop, right? Again, like I said, when hip hop came out, it was kind of like speaking against all that, right? And so when we really, really analyze how it is that we're interacting, I mean, the whole term battle, right? That's a war term, right? The fact that men go against each other to annihilate each other, to say who's the best, right? And that women are coming into this with that same feeling. Most of us who come into street dance or, club dance or circle, we're warriors. Like some shit has gone down and we appear alongside of y'all. And so what happens is that nobody's really thinking like, what's up with her? Like, what's going on with her? Why is she here? Right? It feels like men know why they're there, right? They got some score they got to settle. They're trying to like, access manhood through battling, through testing each other. So I get that. But when a woman comes in, like, no one's really thinking like, what is she going through? What, why is she here? What does she want? And maybe even the brothers don't ask each other that. Maybe nobody, is having real conversations with each other as men. And so, this breakdown of communication is gonna end up overlapping and spreading into the women who come into this. And so it's hard. It's hard because how do we settle all of this? Because it's bigger than us. Like I said, the planet does not respect women, but the planet doesn't respect men who are not in the ruling class. So it's like, we're all trying to survive here. And so, sometimes, I've tried to tell a young, aspiring dancer who comes into a practice session in like a wife beater and a push-up bra, hey, maybe, next time you come through, maybe let's put a t-shirt on, because you're gonna get sweaty anyway. And what if you have a wardrobe malfunction, right? And I'm trying to find my way to access this new person that's here and say, I care. And I'm just trying to prevent in case, someone starts to answer your message, because we're all putting out messages. And the message that most people respect is power. When I go into the cipher, I'm powerful and I need to be that way so that you don't cut me off when you go dance, right? Let me finish and then you can dance. That was the most that I wanted. That's the most thing I wanted. I wanted my time and my space, and don't touch me. Any other dance that I did, brothers could come in and hump me and nobody did nothing. Nobody. But when I break, and I see that with crumping, you might get a swift kick or a punch in the side of your head if you don't give that person the space. So hip hop is combat, but now we have to balance it out with community and serious analysis of the world and society, especially with this Black Lives movement that's happening. We got to think. This is our chance. Hip hop was our chance to define and design how we do what we do. But, we got to probably circle back now and figure out how we want to proceed. So I'm happy that this discussion is happening cross genres. It's a first. I've never seen anything like this. It's like unity. So yeah, so I just want to say that's what I feel society has done to us, and we are surviving it. And at this point, right now, this very minute, we're starting to change it. We want to change it, and so I think it's coming.
I definitely agree. And I agree with the part that you said about like when random guys will come and they start touching you for no reason, even while you're doing your set. I've been a victim of that before, plenty of times, whether it be in the club or even not so much mostly at clubs though, but, or at other events, even if it's not the club though. So I understand completely how you feel. So I'm going to be cutting people off of this question. So I'm going to just leave it to Asad to wrap up this question, please, if you could.
For sure. And I have some notes here, and it definitely kind of piggybacks right off of what Rockefeller was saying. Those are some dope words. So appreciate that. So I think, American society, when we look at what we all do, we also have to, break down like what happens in these little communities, because what happens in these communities is indicative of the entire culture, right? So like visual cues, we look at things like, how people are dressed, and these different, kind of social tiers that end up being created. So like in art, we actually see roles and ranks in society, right? So like we'll see, gods over humans, or, kings over queens, kings and queens over their subjects, or warriors over their conquered, right? So what does that do when we're viewing that? What happens to us subconsciously, right? So I always want to ask, like, why do we do certain things? Like, we know certain things happen, but we always have to ask why. And a lot of that is subconscious from, say, like these visual cues. So that gets into, like, I think gender roles really, really heavily. So in a society where power structure is geared towards men in power, we see those roles and ranks played out that are also in those visual cues, that we see in art. So we have ideas of what's masculine and what's feminine, right? So like masculine is like, it's hard, it's bravado, there's this sexual vitality, from men that we look at. Feminine or femme is, soft, it's coy, it's enticing, right? Those are the cues that we think of when we hear those words, when we see those different, actions. Now, when we look at, like, say, breaking and popping, right, women have to present masculine in order to advance, in order to do well within the dance. If we look at, like, whacking, men have to present as feminine in order to advance. So what does it say about breaking, where the visual cues require a woman to dress and enact mannerisms of masculinity in order to thrive in that dance? Now, b-boying has a history of wanting to sexually degrade the opponent, right? We have those things of, these gestures and whatnot that happen. So how does that extend to when a b-boy meets a b-girl in a battle, right? This is someone who's presenting masculine, and, the same actions end up being part of that nature of movement. So now they want to dominate the space, and they want to do it in sort of a sexual form, because now they know that this is a woman and this body needs to be conquered, in this type of way. So, and a couple notes, like, Crucial said that, there's no safe space because of how people present, and that's absolutely, true. Mono's saying that, women are looked at it as a prize, in this as well. And it's the same thing that Rockefeller was talking about with, men go into these spaces wanting to conquer them. So, of course, getting a B girl, that also definitely becomes a prize of a certain way. And then OGs as well. I think that's something that we need to focus on, because OGs, like, we hear those stories all the time. Yo, like, for me back in the day, we used to go to these parties, and we would pick up all the women, and it's like the battles and this battle culture that we have today, where it's not about going to the parties, right? It's actually about, getting into this engagement of, war, as Rockefeller was saying. Um, Now we have this confusion that OGs are putting on the younger generation of saying, oh, well, this is where we go to pick up women. This is where we go to find our sexual activity, right? And now we're putting that in a battle where we already have this masculine energy that's, hyper masculine energy that's, blown out of proportion, compared to what like the regular, we have these power struggles, of course, when we're at work where, you know, whatever we're doing, even if you're in the supermarket, there's these little power struggles. But when we get into this space, it's amplified. So, I'm going to kind of quote a Dave Chappelle thing here, because again, we're talking about the why. Like, who are you talking to? The way that you dress, the way that you move, the way that you act, like, who are you talking to? What's the message that you're trying to present? To people that are around you, to the people that you're trying to engage with. So that's really about all I have to say on that. And it's just everyone, that's involved in the scene, think about why things happen and why you engage in a certain way, and what's kind of feeding that. So, definitely thank you for everybody, for those really incredible perspectives. And, glad it's kind of able to tie it together a little bit.
Can I just say something real quickly, that even if you throw a cock at somebody, they could throw a move and take that gesture out. It doesn't even matter. So that's the hidden thing about cocking in breaking. It's like, yeah, you can throw a cock at me if you want, and I'm still going to take you out with bigger moves, and the whole world's going to see, right, that you threw a cock, but you did nothing after, or my moves were more powerful than yours. And so that's the hidden thing that no one's talking about, is that at the very top, elite, top 4, top 16 of the planet, cocking doesn't mean anything. But maybe in the underground or down here, we put up with it. But like, yeah, just wanted to say that real quickly.
Thank you, you guys. Oh, excuse me. So we are going to move forward with question number 5, and I'm going to just have just 2 people from this question to answer, and that'll be Lotus and Sticks. So we'll start with Lotus for question 5. How does fear exist in the scene?
Oh, I feel, not that I feel, I have actually been able to witness how fear has come about in such multitudes, in such small aspects, all the way up to winning things. So for me, I think fear starts in the classroom a lot of the times. People who are coming into the scene, who want to know, who want to learn, who want to understand, the moment that they feel they're being sexually harassed or of some sort, or if they even go ahead and say, oh, you're making me feel uncomfortable, now this person no longer wants to give them any kind of correction, no longer wants to say, hey, oh, you're still doing this wrong, let me tell you why, and keep it to what it actually might be, which is the craft at hand. And instead of saying, oh, okay, my bad, I apologize, I wasn't trying to make you feel uncomfortable, taking that kind of accountability, they just go, all right, so I'm not going to teach you no more. Good luck, figure it out, have somebody else find you. And then people go, well, damn, all I did was tell you, you made me feel uncomfortable. So that fear starts right there. Or even the blackballing in the community of saying, oh, I don't want this person at my event. They said that I did this, this, and this. And it becomes this almost like a hierarchy of, okay, if the moment I start to speak out, or the moment if I'm not dealing with this type of abuse anymore, that I can no longer get opportunity. I'm no longer allowed to come around certain people because, oh, they talk to my friend in a certain way. It becomes almost a cult mentality of, if you're not going to deal with this abuse that I'm going to give you in order to be here or to get this knowledge, that you can no longer have access to it, or you're going to have to find somebody who is almost rogue to the ideal of that. And it becomes weird in that sense of like, okay, well, Now people are even scared to say who they associate with. And I've seen where people go, come to me, who I'm not really considered a elite person in anything exactly, but they'll come to me and go, yeah, that's crazy. This person did this to me. And then I have to go, okay, what do you want to do about it? Do you want me to go ahead and say something? Do you want me to be there for you while you say something? What do you want to do? Because me, I don't have no problem saying, I don't care if you like what I'm doing or not. You gonna give me my correction. I'm gonna keep bothering you until you gonna hear me. So, but that's me, and I understand that everybody isn't in that realm of testing those waters and keep pushing people and being that kind of persistent, especially if all they came here was for the craft and not for the um, community necessarily. Not they didn't want to indulge in getting to know everybody. They just wanted to learn the craft. They want to become better at the craft. So when they go ahead and have conversation with these people, they know what they're talking about. So those kind of fears start multiplying in different ways of not showing up to class, not showing up to events, not showing up to certain circles, or if they see certain people are hosting, or they see that you hang out at a specific school. Like in New York, we have about 5 or 6 schools that are primary schools to learn. And if they see that there's a person that they don't feel comfortable with, they won't even come around to those schools anymore. And I myself had that problem where I won't show up to BDC at a certain time because I know I'll see certain people and I just don't want to deal with that. Or if I'll go to Perry Dance, but like there's certain places that I won't go because of the fear that people have almost put on me because of those things. And it's not to say that the whole organization is bad. It's just we don't talk about it. We don't have these conversations. It's never been opened up. And now people are going, hey, hold these people responsible. But before that, it was, okay, well, I just won't show up, or I just won't go to this, or I won't participate, or I won't be a part of this program. I'll have to learn from somewhere else. And that is unfortunate. And that's really what is going on at this point.
Thank you, Lotus. I appreciate your response. So since time is like creeping up on us, we may have to cut the questions short. That's down below. So we may have to consider a part 2 to this discussion. If anyone is open to that, maybe next time it'll be a little bit more organized and stuff. So we're gonna have Sticks continue on, answering this question, and then we're going to have Ebony wrap us up. And yeah, so Sticks, you have the floor.
Thank you. So yeah, with fear, I think a lot of it is fear of speaking up, kind of what she was just saying here, where when you speak up, you're gonna either be labeled or kind of lose your status, or your status changes. And I think men and women speaking up kind of share this fear, but in different ways because the labels are different. When women speak up, they, initial things could be that they're lying. They can be slut shamed if it's a sexual thing. They can be seen as damaged, and that's like a label that kind of stays with them. They're kind of off limits. Like you don't even want to talk to them or touch them just because they were even involved in something like this. Whereas the offender, typically a male, right, tend to be labeled as just kind of like, that's just a guy being a guy, just kind of aggressive or whatever. That's kind of normalized. Or even if they have an issue, even if it's something serious, you might be like, oh, well, they have an issue, but they can be seen as like they can get through this, or they can work through that, or that was just their troubled past. But it's kind of still okay, whereas as women, typically it's not not seen that way as much. they're kind of just crazy, or like that's how they're gonna be, you know. So and then you have the men that speak up that aren't involved, right? And then they can be kind of labeled as soft or sensitive. Usually this is for like the less egregious offenses. Obviously, there's like physical abuse. Most men will stand behind that as like that's not right. But you know, stuff like jokes, degrading women, objectifying women, that stuff is typically, you know, normalized. And if you're not participating in that as a man, you can be seen as like soft or sensitive, things like that. Um, so that's kind of like something I see as a fear of like why people don't speak up a lot in general on both sides. Um, and something I just want to touch on real quick, just because of in terms of time here. I think it's important when we have these discussions. Something that's helped me a lot is to focus on the larger scale problems versus the individual things that are happening. Because you always hear people when this topic comes up, they'll be like, well, you know, I know men that have been abused too, or I know women that have lied about being abused and blah blah blah. And even though those things might be true, usually they're just saying that to take away from like this larger scale problem that's common, you know. And that's like more often than not, you can look at the statistics even, you know, and people just know this. Men are the ones doing this all the time. You know, we gotta quit telling ourselves that, and quit telling ourselves that that's not the problem here. So we need to focus on that. Like, what is the reason that so many men are doing this to women? You know, regardless of these little individual, you know, outlying cases that are different. So I think that that's important to focus on that, because a lot of women might also come to the police or try to do legal action, and that doesn't work in most cases. You know, that gets like, you know, justice system isn't giving them justice. So if they can't find it there, you know, can they find it here in our scene? They're not finding it here in our scene either. So we really need a big cultural change. And we need, as men, I'm trying to speak up for men here, we need to change a lot too, how we address this stuff, how we deal with this stuff, how we hold each other accountable. Um, Even little things, we could talk about this like serious, you know, physical abuse stuff, but just objectifying women, over sexualizing them, seeing them as objects, just jokes that we tell, all this little stuff that we do helps, you know, these bigger things continue to happen, right? And so I think that needs to be like a big focus here when we have these discussions. And we just basically need to keep having these discussions, because even in these scenes, right, we've said it's male dominated. So all these things are amplified in our dance scene. You know, all these things are out here in our regular culture and society. They're amplified even more just because there's more men compared to women in these communities. So it's really important for us to have this discussion in our communities and to continue having this, because each situation is different. You got to deal with it differently. So like, we need to just have this continued thing to happen. It's not just this one talk we're going to have today. We need to have like community meetings about this. We need to feel like it's a safe space for women to speak. We need to be welcoming as this discussion as men, not push it away. You know, these are just some thoughts I had in general on this topic.
Can I just say one thing? One thing. Also, it's a fear of emasculation in the dance community with these men too. Um, a lot of times everybody always makes it seem like the woman is helpless or this victim, but I am a strong dancer in my community. And I didn't even know that the power that I possess, and as I chose to walk in that power, it triggers the psychological traumas in some of these men. So I might remind them of some abusive auntie or a mom that didn't hug them or somebody that beat on them, or to make them seem like I am
Okay, so I don't know, Crucial. Hope she comes back with us. Um, dang love. So Going back with sticks, definitely can reiterate. I've witnessed seeing an experience, like some of the experiences in the Crumpers page where people be joking about some things. Some the Crumpers can definitely, they know what it is, about the things that's been going on the page and stuff like that. But just the jokes and stuff like that regarding to, I know someone in particular, I'm not gonna say her name or anything, but she was uncomfortable with some of the things that they said about her and a big homie, and it just, you know, just really made her very uncomfortable. And she's a young lady. She's in her early 20s. So it's just very unfortunate, you know, that people think it's funny when it's really not, and it can really affect somebody. So with that said, we're going to give it to Ebony by, I guess, going down to the bottom half of the statistics and stuff like that, or if you have any words that you would like to give to everyone, thoughts, etc., etc., etc. Floor is yours.
Well, first, I just want to thank everybody for coming together, um, because this really makes a difference. And so one thing I do want you guys to take away from this panel is, you know, abuse, any type of abuse. So it could be sexual abuse, domestic violence. It is a cycle. And so the only way that we can truly break this cycle is to come together and educate. And it's little simple things like language. I noticed in the chat someone was like, can you please start saying survivor? And yes, so you know, in this line of work, um language is really big. And so I love that you guys are having these conversations. I say just continue to have these conversations, continue to educate, and learn about the different resources. And so you guys can be advocates in this field, and that is wonderful. However, the survivor needs to be connected to the right resources to get help. And so just be very mindful when you guys are having these conversations. Make sure that you maybe partner up with a local DV agency, and so that the survivors can get the proper help. I heard a lot of talk about legal work, and some people feel that it doesn't work. And I've been in this field for, oh goodness, a very long time. And so I don't like to say that taking the legal way, it doesn't work, because I have witnessed protective orders saving people's lives. So again, let's, you know, just be very mindful of how we have these conversations, because we're having these conversations, but then you're saying that, you know, oh, the legal way might not work. We don't want to say that. We don't want to intimidate anybody from reaching and going to get help. Um, and so just, you know, with, again, with that being said, continue to have these conversations, reach out to your local agencies, you know, to form a partnerships. You know, each county have what they call a task force, and so they meet probably like once a month, and they talk about crimes like this against women. um, and so I will leave you guys with a little bit statistics. Right now, it's 1 in 3 women, and 1 in 4 men. So I do believe that 1 in 4 is a little bit closer to the 1 in 3, just because men are underreported. And so I do understand that this is a woman's issue, but just keep in mind that this issue does not discriminate against anyone. And so when we're having these conversations, just be very mindful of that. I would love for you guys to go ahead and probably just send out my contact information. You guys can use my agency, which is Partnership Against Domestic Violence. We are a DV agency here in the Metro Atlanta area. All of our resources are absolutely free. We have shelters, support groups, we have counseling. And because COVID is going on, we have moved everything to a virtually platform so people can call us and do counseling over the phone. Again, it's free. We offer services to men, children, women, you name it. We do legal help. So we do help people getting protective orders if they need help with a divorce or like a stalking order. We actually basically hold someone's hand. And just walk them through that process. Again, everything is free. So I do see someone put out some hotline numbers. So again, just go ahead and just share those resources with anybody that you may know. And because you guys do come in contact with a lot of different people, it's really good if you can just always have that resource, just on you, have it stored, but yeah. So do I have any questions? That's kind of just
Ebony, can you let us know that resource's name again?
So the resource that I'm with is Partnership Against Domestic Violence. It's padv.org. The 24-hour crisis line number is 404-873-1766. Again, 404-873-1766. Now, you don't have to be in the metro Atlanta area to call that number. If you are outside the area, I still encourage people to call that number and use it as a resource. So the person, the crisis line, they can give you maybe another number that's closer in your area, but you can definitely use that number as a start.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, Ebony. Very resourceful. I really appreciate it. So with that said, guys, it's 1:48 p.m. Eastern time right now, so we still have a little bit of time. I noticed that somebody asked a question from the audience, I want to say. It said, Mona Lisa spoke on how a B girl can feel unsafe at a break practice session. So maybe there can be some set rules for everyone coming to the break practice. Can someone else talk on situations where you might not feel safe? Anybody want to, or Mona Lisa, if you would like to address it, or anybody else that might be interested in?
I'd actually like to talk about that because I've gone to a couple of practices in various, genres. And one of the things that I felt was the best thing is whoever is hosting the class or the practice, make sure that they are the ones that are greeting everyone that comes into it. One of the gentlemen that is in my crew, his name is Fudd. Every time that somebody new comes into the room, the moment that they come into the room, he makes sure that they are addressed. Like, hey, how you doing? How you been? What brought you here? What's going on? Like, what are you trying to learn from here? And he's very proactive in making sure that if you are new, you aren't even able to get touched because the moment anybody else sees him go to them, is off guard. He automatically says, this is a new person, we're going to guide them right, as well as making sure that he's the one that's leading the practice or whatever it is. It becomes way more structured than just giving people a space to practice. Even though there is a lot of time where we can go ahead and work on our own individual stuff, where we can focus individually, he makes sure that as soon as somebody comes into the room, they are addressed. And I think that is something that should be practiced amongst all things, and has been the most effective in what I've seen. Even when I go to like the freestyle sessions at EXPG, my host, Mr. Sean, will come over to me and he'll be like, hey, what's going on? How are you? Oh, you working on stuff? That's cool. If you want to work on popping, there's a couple of people over there. I don't mind. I can show you them, or I can bring you over and introduce you. He makes sure that he is interactive with whoever's coming in. And I think that is the safest way, one, to having people understand, like, you can't just jump on people. Like if this was a normal world, you don't go into your classroom and just start, hi, we're friends now. You don't do that. It just didn't work the same way in the dance world. You go in there, you get to know people naturally and organically, and it becomes something that is organic, just the way that we like our dance to be is very organic. So I think the whoever is going to throw these practices, throw these events, throw that, there should be um, some kind of checks and balances to that of saying, okay, there's someone at the door. Hey, what's up? I'm going to be your liaison or whatever the case is, but making sure that there is somebody that people can go to first. Just like if you were a business, you have a front desk person. It should be the same way when it comes to practices or events. That's how I feel.
Yes, Lotus, I totally agree. I've been holding sessions since 1997 in New York City, some that went all the way to like midnight. So yes, to having point people who will be ushering people in, teaching beginners, but also I want to introduce culture, right? Culture, have dinners, have birthdays, celebrate weddings, and um, there should be other ways and other times that we're getting together. We have to go deeper. Part of a movement now, like a hip hop culture vanguard to try to wake up people to celebrate culture. We have to be talking about our history, generations. We have to talk about local economies, financial literacy. We should be meeting in addition to the dance, other times we should see each other as complete beings, complete humans. So yes, we dance and yes, we get down, but there's other dimensions to me as a person, to you as a person. And a long time ago, that's the way it was. After a jam, we all hit the diner or someplace near. We sat, we spoke, and that helped to also prevent depression because some of the people lost battles, right? And so for the person who lost, come on, come and sit with me. Let's go eat. Yo, let's laugh, let's talk. So that everybody is embraced, regardless of if you're top 16 or you're number 17. Doesn't matter, right? We're still people and we're a tribe and we need to return to that because our dance sessions now have become very like show up, dance, win, there as well.
Thank you, Rock. You kind of broke up there. We didn't get the last part, like towards the end. So
Do you
let's
mind if I say something real quick on that?
yes, Pepsi. Go ahead.
All right, so I know like we're all are doing the work to dismantle sexism and try to help the situation with sexual violence, but I'm very careful when it comes to situation I put myself in. So I travel a lot and I love going to open practices. It's one of the funnest parts of being a breaker or being a dancer in general for me is just going to an open space and just vibing out with new people. So most of the time when I come to a new city, when I was traveling a lot, I would try my best to hit up an open practice besides just the battles or whatever workshops they're doing. But I always make sure I reach out to the people that's there before I go to an open practice. So I would recommend to, if you are a B girl, don't ever just show up to an open practice just by yourself like that. Always reach out to people first and connect yourself with people before you show up, so that you can you can be in with a couple of people who got your back. Establish community already before you go out. Like I remember one time I was in New York, maybe last summer. I was trying to go to some open practice. I had hit up Rockefeller. I'm like, what's going on? Where's the open practice? She happened to be out of town, but that's kind of what I do. Like when I first went to Chicago, when I first started breaking, and my current mentor, he asked me if I wanted to break. When I went to the practice, I brought a friend from my college, and he was just there with me. He has no ties to dance. He had no ties to breaking at all, but he was there to make sure I was cool. Once I became like cool with the community, he didn't come anymore. But of course, you got to make sure you're being, safe and make sure that you're okay first and foremost. Even though, what I'm saying, we put a lot of faith in the community and the people. Just make sure you establish your community first before you put yourself at risk.
Right. Yo, can I roll right off of that? Everybody's speaking the truth, and I just want to roll off of what Pepsi was saying. And I don't know how you was raised, but it sounds like you just have an understanding that a lot of people are not being raised with in this modern time, and there's a lot of social skills that are being void right now. There's a big void in social skills due to social anxiety. So a vast majority of the children that we work with from 7 to like 18, I would say upward in certain groups to 60% of them deal with social anxiety. So they don't really have the best communication skills, and some of them are not necessarily being raised with social skills. Or I tell my children, because most of my children are young ladies, you know, up to the age of 12, 13, and we tell them that, you know, one of the best self-defenses that you can have for yourself is self-awareness. And a lot of people are not aware of the surroundings, and sometimes, especially for younger people, man, and young boys and young women, when they go to these jam sessions, they're going into their imaginary dreamland of dance world, right? And every great dancer is not a great person, and that's just hands down. You know, every great person, and you know, your favorite athlete, your favorite actor, your favorite dancer doesn't make them a good person. You know, they're good to society, might be their art and their art only. Outside of their art, they might not be contributing a lot of positive vibrations to the world at all. So when you go hang out with these people in a room, you're putting yourself in a situation with new people. You know, you're putting yourself in a situation with new people, and you have to deal with new social skills and new habits and new this and new that. So the best thing you could do is be aware of your surroundings. And one thing that I like to tell people is that your walk is your talk. So how you carry yourself in life is how people will treat you. So it goes before we open our mouth. Over 50% of our communication is physical. So your walk is your talk, and being aware of your surroundings, having your head on swivel, and bringing company, bringing friends with you to new environments. It's imperative. You should, and you should always do it. You know, and if you have to show up by yourself traveling, you know, just know how to keep your eyes open and be aware of your belongings in your body. You know, and smile, because sometimes smiling and connecting eye contact will dead a lot of situations. So keep the head up, and you know, your walk is your talk. But thank you for Pepsi for saying that, because I think that should be like a playbook for young ladies coming to the dance world. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Quick. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 1:59 Eastern Time. I would like to thank you, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Appreciate you all for taking the time. Um, so hopefully, maybe if everybody's still interested, or if you are interested to do a part 2 to this, I know there's other questions that we have not touched base on. It's fine if not, it's cool. But we'll talk more later about that. But yes, shout out to you all for showing up. Thank you to Brenda. Thank you to Rock. Thank you, Soul, Mona Lisa, Pun, Assad, Pep, Ebony, Crucial, Quick, Candy, Beast, Lady Beast, sorry, excuse me, love, Lotus, and Sticks. Thank you all.
Lady
And
Crow,
shout
can
out
I
to,
say something?
yes.
Yes, just really quickly. I just want to, because we have a little bit of extra time on the Vimeo. I'm not saying we'll go over. I'm just saying, can everybody quickly say one or two things? No, can everyone say one or two words that's coming to mind to put into the space for people to think about after they leave today? Because we have a lot of people tuned in. So maybe one or two words that's coming to mind for everybody, whether it's power, whether it's resilience, whatever it is, and just offer that to our viewers who are engaging with us today. That would be great.
I'll go first. What comes to mind to me is emotional safety. Find the people who can provide that for you. Being able to pour your emotions or to pour your conflicts or problems onto somebody else it's really important to find people who provide you that emotional safety where you don't feel judged or abnormal.
Thank you. How about Soul? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ebony.
Just be aware of your surroundings. Pepsi spoke a lot about safety plan. Please safety plan. If you're going somewhere, it's your first time, make sure you just let somebody know, have a friend, a family member, somebody with you, or just tell them. So yes, just be aware of your surroundings and safety plan.
Thank you.
What's good for me is normalizing authentic accountability. I think a lot of times people think that they're holding people accountable, but then they're actually doing the very thing that they are contradicting themselves with doing. So normalize authentic accountability. That also means holding yourself accountable as well. That's it.
Thank you. Like popcorn. Let's go.
Okay, mine is I love me. I am deserving. I am deserving of healing. I am deserving of being protected. I'm deserving of being loved, and I am deserving of communicating my emotions and feelings and being heard. But I love me.
Intention. What is my intention? What is their intention? Intention.
Learn and rise. Learn what to do better, be better, and continue to rise. Never stagnant.
I want to say community. Sorry, admit, just coming together, talking more, being there for each other, not just on social media, in social real life.
Thought and action. Think about things that you may have done, take action, to learn and just be better overall.
I'm going to go with process. It's okay to be in a process. It's also okay to understand other people's process and understanding that everything that you do is part of the process, and that's okay. You're going to be okay. So just process.
I would say Asada's prayer. It is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains.
I would say staying open, meaning open communication, being open with each other about things happening, just being open to new things, new process, new ways of speaking to each other, and being in our community moving forward.
Who else do we have here? We have Pun, Assad, I think. No, Assad went. Pun?
What I would say is practicals and accountability and awareness. Learn what you want to do practically, be aware, and also hold everybody accountable. I know somebody already said that.
Thank you. Anyone else offer a word or two? And peace. Okay, Lady Crow, how about you?
I would say, everybody said all the great right things. Dang, I feel left out. My goodness. Man, let's just stick together and just be there for one another. Always, especially, when this surpasses, this craziness is going on, we start getting back to where we once were. Things it's different. We're all changed. now, all has been happening. But I would say, even no matter what style you do, look out for each other, even at jams. Like if someone were to be, to experience these particular issues right then and there, they come back. You see somebody come back and they look really, um, like I can't think of the word right now, but if you understand what I'm trying to say in that form, but just make sure people are okay. Make sure they are okay, because even if they are smiling in your face and stuff like that, you just don't know what everybody's going through. So I would just say, just be there for one another. That's the biggest thing to me,
It's wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining. Just so everyone who's tuning in knows, I've asked for everyone's email, Lady Crow, so you can collect it and send them the notes that I've compiled from today to all the people who want to continue the conversation.
Brenda, can't hear you, love.
Oh, can you hear me? Looks like everyone else can hear me. I'll connect with you after, lady. So for us, we are collecting emails so that from the crowd who's on the chat right now, so that we can share the notes from today with everybody. And this will help in planning a second event. So thank you to all the speakers, and have a wonderful day, everybody.